Today I'm going to review this Vevor 6-inch milling vise. Now you might be thinking, oh, another presenter sold out doing cheap tool reviews. Well, actually there's quite a lot of work in reviewing these things. It'll take me quite a few hours. You won't have to watch a few hours, but it takes me a few hours. And I won't get rich on it either. I get a little bit of commission if you buy one of these from the link. And of course I get the tool for free. It's a pretty good vise actually, it's exceptional value. We'll just quickly jump back in time, I'll unbox it and then we'll have a look round. Check all the measurements. I've got a spec sheet and by the end of this you'll know all about it. This is how it came. If you're in the UK you'll know the courier Every, used to be Hermes. They didn't used to be that good, they changed the name. They have improved. So it was ordered like one day and then about a day and a half, 2 days later it arrived. Okay, so handle, hold down bolts and some of the stuff I'll mention later. The vise. And it's a bit of a beast, as you can see. So the 6 inches that they refer to is this. But actually when we come to look at the manual, it's 160 that they refer to, which is this. Anyway, let's get it out and weigh it. I've seen several weights mentioned, so we'll just check what it actually does weigh. So I should tell you what the price is. For this lump, it's 87 pounds UK, 111 US dollars, and 102 euros. Now that's just a straight conversion. I've not priced it in those regions. It's just by doing the conversion. I'll do this in kilos to start with. 21.5 kilos. Now these vices, they come with a rotating base stand or just without. So obviously this is the one without. I'll do one in pounds. I won't bother with stones. So in pounds, 47.4 pounds. We'll look at the spec sheet in a minute, but just to give you an idea, it's 8.5 wide, so that's about 215, and it's 16.5 long, which is about 415. And it comes with this quite extensive skirt around the outside, which means that for this vise you need really a very wide mill table. But this skirt, as I call it, catches the coolant and then the excess coolant runs off here at each side. And also you see here this this hole, this cutaway, well, the coolant pouring down the centre here runs out into this tray and then off. It comes with a pretty stout handle, and these jaws, they both reverse, so you can have the jaws facing inwards, or one in, one out, or both out. And again, we'll look at that in the spec in a minute. Now the way you take the jaw off is there's a screw there, and this one is screwed from underneath. There's a key strip in there. I think you can probably see that there. The screw is about 27 millimeters in diameter and the pitch is about 4.5 millimeters. Now let's just quickly look at this, taking this off. Okay, so then this has got like a hook side to it and it hooks underneath there. That's it. You can see how well this is all machined. It's really nice actually. And then there's a kind of hook in there as well. So this will reverse, although I'm not sure, you know. Hold on a minute. I'm not sure about this. You see that, yeah? Let's zoom in slightly. All right. Okay, I think the idea is that this goes in to there. I'd have to check that, you know. Have I understood this correctly? That's the thing. Where are we? That is intended to go in there, isn't it? It might be that these bits have to be taken away. I don't know. You know, this is why it takes a few hours to do these reviews. I can't really see in there properly. I just suspect that you would have to take off those two flashings there. There's a bit of flashing there that you'd probably want to take off. I mean, there's a bit of a chip out of there, so the coolant would run out okay, and it's okay at this other side nearest me. I'd probably just file that off. Now, the thing about this vise is it's got hold downs here and here, and I was surprised to find there are no hold downs at the end. Let's just zoom out for a second. So yeah, if your table's not wide enough and you can't get the bolts in here because your T-slots aren't going to line up, let's say, we'd have to find a different way of holding it down along the length of the bed. Now this vise is wider than my bed, so my useful working space on my Harrison mill, which we'll look at in a minute, is only 8 inches side to side, and this is 8.5. So these stick off the end of my table, and then if I was using it, these gullies here would conveniently pour the coolant off the side of the table and at the near side probably onto the floor. But that's the consequence, I think, of being such a big vise. Vevor operate a kind of catalogue which influencers, that's a joke, isn't it? I'm an influencer, can select from, and this was the size of vise that they offered. Now they make vices in numerous other sizes, again, which we'll talk about, but I'll just drop this onto the mill table now so you can see. Well, here it is on the mill table, and you can see I have 8 inches across here. This is 8.5 inches to here. These lugs are even wider. The bolts would go in there. Well, that's nowhere near any of my T-slots, which are here, here and here. But I would be able to clamp it down on the ends if I had the right sort of fixing. Now this fixing comes from my surface grinder to hold the magnetic vise down. So I could, maybe not just there, but I could, there, look, do something. Which way around would it be? There we are. I could put something through there and clamp it there. I could machine some flats on here if I wanted to. So it's quite possible to hold it down. But if I show you the underside, it's quite curious that they don't have hold downs at the ends, because the underside is set up for holding it down in this direction or this direction. So if you buy it with the revolving base, that goes into there and runs here, no doubt, fairly obvious. But the vise comes with some T-slot engagement lugs. I don't know what the right words are. Yeah, so here's the hold down bolts, which are massive. A bit big for my mill. You see, Vevor didn't have other sizes for me to review on the catalogue from my view. My login, I just saw this size, you see. So here are the tramming lugs, let's call it that. They go in there like that. So you've got them for sideways across and lengthways as well. But there are no hold down holes lengthways. Just what it is, right? Now, looking at the width of these lugs are, what did I measure them? 18 millimeters. Whereas my T-slots are only 1/2 inch, so we're a mile off being able to fit that in on this mill. Just saying, all right, it's not a problem. Just saying that's what it's like. Anyway, I think it's time to look at the spec. This is where portrait meets landscape, but I think we can manage. Now these diagrams are showing the opening of the jaws for the different models in different configurations. So it arrives in this configuration, and the rest is obvious, okay? One turned, both turned. And then the models across the top, 80, 100, 125, 160, 200, another 160 and a 250. So that's about 3 inch, 4 inch, 5 inch, 6 inch, 8 inch, 6 inch again, and 10 inch. I don't think Vevor sell all of these. They sell the 3, the 4, the 5, and the 6 for sure, with or without, this 6, with or without the swivel base. Anyway, I'm not going to go through all this, but what they're saying is normal opening with the jaws facing in towards each other, 170 millimeters for this particular model. And then if you reverse the jaws in that style, it's 359 millimeters. So that's about a foot plus 2 inches, 14 inches, something like that. Now, some of these are quite hard to understand, but I think we can figure it out. So this is what I think this vise is, this column here. So mouth of the tongs, width, well, tongs must be jaws. So 160 width of the jaws. Mouth of the tongs altitude, well, it's 45 millimeters tall. Force 29 kilonewtons. Right, localization width of key. That's talking about these. Where are we? 18 millimeters. Localization width of key. Some of these I can't work out. Screw rod 6 square heads width, 19 millimeters. I think it might be that square. Okay, we'll try it with this. 19.49, so it's actually 19 and a half. Now I'm not going to go through all the rest because there isn't any point. That one, diameter of bolt, M16. Well, I don't know what that is. Is it that one? That's 14, definitely 14. That's 21, near enough, 21.36 for some reason. So I don't know. Right, chassis 2 set groove center distances. Well, looking at it, I can't find anything that matches chassis 2 set groove center distances, but now I understand chassis might be the rotating base that goes on here. Anyway, enough of all that, I think, already. I'll just move this for a moment then. Now, I made some cardboard cutouts, look. So 6 inch, 87 pounds, 111 US dollars, 102 euros. 16.5 inches by 8.5 inches by 4.5 inches. Hang on, I need to check what that 4.5 inches is. Yeah, I've got it. The 4.5 inches is that height off the bed. Okay, so that's the 6 inch vise. Right, but I've made cutouts for the other sizes. The 5 inch vise. Now I did this only by scale drawing, so I can't say that this is exactly where these are going to line up. But that's the 5 inch vise. Okay, now I can tell you for these other cutouts I've got here for the 4 inch and the 3 inch, none of them line up with my T-slots. Oh no, that's not true. One of them only, the smallest, lines up with my T-slots. So for the 4, the 5 and the 6, this way you'd have to be holding them down at the ends there like that. Anyway, £68, $87, 80 euros. And you can see those, I won't leave them out. So it's the same height off the bed for the 5 inch. 4 inch, £52, $66, 61 euros. Right. So even that, you see, wouldn't line up with my T-slots. If I get one in the T-slot, this one's in the coolant channel. So again, you'd have to be holding that at the end. Those are the sizes. Right, so a little bit, not quite as tall, a little bit less, but not a lot. And then we've got the tiny one, and this is the one that would line up with my T-slots. £44, $56, 51 euros, 3 inch. The curious thing about this is it's only 2.8 off the bed, so I think they must have quite slim jaws. You just have to check that. But there's a range for everybody. This handle, I'm not so happy with, because somebody's been super lazy and they've drilled the pin off. So there's the pin, which I can see wiggling as well. And I don't know if you can make out that angle, look. But it's easy to see. It starts on the casting there, on the casting line, but at this side, it's right over there. So it still functions, okay. But a bit of lazy work, that. I'd probably, perhaps this will be cast steel, won't it? So I'd probably just weld that up and re-drill it, just for my own satisfaction. Whilst I think of it, the tramming key, that's what I mean, that block that goes in the T-slot. So on this vise we said it's 18mm. Now even on the 3, 4 and 5-inch vices, it's 14. So I'd still have to machine those a bit narrower to fit in my 1/2-inch T-slots. Now sometimes when you're trying to assess something, it's good to compare one with another. So this vise I got from Facebook some time ago. I think it's Indian. There's some things I like about it. It's got hold down lugs at the two ends. But a disadvantage with it is this part, the bed, I'll call it the bed because I don't know what it's called, doesn't come right to the edge. I don't know if you can see if I tip it up, look. Yeah, it stops there. And the problem with that is, if I'm using these quick index blocks, they're not supported to the edge. They want to do that, look. And it's very difficult to get them settled correctly, whereas with this, it supports right to the very edge. So that's quite an advantage with this style of vise. And now I normally only review things that I want for myself. Can't guarantee that'll always be the case, but right now, and I wanted this vise, or at least this style of vise, that was for one of these reasons, like that. Primarily for that reason, I should say. The other thing is, we've already seen that this has tramming keys underneath. This one doesn't have tramming keys. So I ended up drilling a couple of holes in it somewhere. Oh, it's not in this. This also sits on a swivel base. So that's an advantage, again, to this one, because this is a proper milling vise. I don't know what this was. Perhaps it was a milling vise. This screw is a smaller diameter than this one. So, you know, that's just a comparison. I'm not saying this is a bad vise either, but this is more suitable, I'd say, for what I want to do. So if I had a free hand to choose and I was buying for myself, maybe I'd have bought the 4. But if I show you a 4-inch vise, this abwood that I got with the shaper is a 4-inch. I think that's a bit small. So perhaps I would have settled for the 5. 5, 6, 5, 5. There you go. Classy production, this. Yeah, I think I would have settled for the 5. It would still sort of come to the edge of the table. The skirt around the outside would still pour the coolant off the edge just about. But I think that would have been it. And for £68, I reckon that's pretty good. We better do a quick accuracy check. Now, I'm not going to bolt it onto the table because it's a bit difficult to do, but we'll just measure across here and then we'll measure vertically on the jaws. Now, when I'm measuring vertically, of course, you know, we're hoping that my mill is accurate because that's what we're comparing against. So just laid on, not bolted down. Not cleaned either, by the way. Okay, there's a bit there, isn't there? Perhaps a thou to 100mm, something like that. But if I clean the base, I might get better results than that. That's repeatable. This is where I knock the tripod, like that. Well, I don't think there's much wrong with that, is there? Well, end of review. I think it's excellent value, £87 for a vise that size. You might just make a couple of minor tweaks to it, but you can see it's all basically sound. I've put a link in the description to this vise. If you use that link, you get 5% off, but there's also, I think, a general discount code, and it works in any of the countries that Vevor are trading in. Now, just a point about Vevor, actually. They are a platform, as you can imagine. They sell loads of different products. But I pointed out an error in one of their products recently. It was a rotary table, an indexing rotary table. And the centre, it was a 6-inch table, and the centre was Morse taper 2. But for some reason on their website they'd put MK2. So I queried this and said, look, do you really mean that? And they checked, and then something like, within a couple of days, they'd fixed that, they'd corrected that, which I think is pretty good. Now, the only thing, if Vevor are watching, is I would improve the English in that manual, because many people in China are taught English, and I use Google Translate for my comments. If somebody comments to me in a foreign language, I'll use Google Translate. I'll translate it one way, then I'll translate it back, and if it comes back the same way, having done it twice, that's good. So, people, they could do a lot better just on the manual in this day and age. Maybe 20 years ago not, but now. So that would be the one thing I would pick out for Vevor. If somebody in the team just reviews that English in that manual and then asks the supplier just to improve it, that's all I would say. So that's it. Thanks for watching.